Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another unexpected news video for the good old 2021. My name is Camel and I'm bringing this news to you bleary-eyed and ready for bed, so let's cut straight to the meat. I opened Twitter a few minutes ago, before bed, just check what's going on, and I saw something I did not expect to see. Now, I would love all of your opinions down in the comments on this because I'm not even sure what to think at the moment. So, Bethesda's Twitter page made two substantial tweets. The first is this short video which pans across some knickknacks and paddywhacks lying on a table, which we'll take a closer look at in a minute. But the real meaty nugget was the second tweet that was made, and I quote, "A new Indiana Jones game with an original story is in development from our studio Machinegames, and will be executive produced by Todd Howard, in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. It'll be some time before we have more to reveal, but we're very excited to share today's news." Who saw that coming? So what does that actually mean? There's a lot of keywords and key people and key studios, and has a lot of people confused on Twitter. So firstly, it's very important to clarify that this is not being made by Bethesda Games Studios. Bethesda Game Studios is the studio that does, the Elder Scrolls series, the Fallout series, and in the future, the Starfield series. So this Indiana Jones game isn't being made by that company, despite Todd Howard's name being mentioned. So this Indiana Jones game is actually being made by Machinegames, which is a Swedish studio owned by Bethesda Softworks, who is a publisher, and their mother company, ZeniMax Media, the same company that was bought by Microsoft at the end of last year for several $1 billion. Anyway, Machinegames is best known for making the modern wave of Wolfenstein games. Wolfenstein The New Order, Wolfenstein The Old Blood, Quake Dimensions of the Past, Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, Wolfenstein Youngblood, and Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. And now, apparently, this untitled Indiana Jones game. So that's all well and good, but what does Todd have to do with this? Why is Todd involved? Todd isn't part of the Machinegames studio, and naturally with Todd being involved in some way, has got a lot of people sweating that it's going to affect the production of Starfield and the Elder Scrolls VI, aka make them slower because their main dude, Todd Howard, is working on something else, an Indiana Jones game for Machinegames Studios. So Todd Howard as an executive producer? Well, what does that actually mean though, Todd as an executive producer for this Indiana Jones game? Well, to be honest, it can range from anything like Todd Howard being in studio 24/7 for years, working on the game, all the way to the other end of the spectrum where him being an executive producer could just mean once a week he jumps on Zoom and gives his opinion for an hour on things to do with the game's development. For example, Jay-Z was the executive producer of NBA 2K13, which sounds grand, but that role consisted of him appearing in the intro of the game, him choosing songs for the soundtrack, and collaborating with other people in regards to the visual design of the menu. Doesn't sound like much, but again, his title for that game was executive producer. So that term, executive producer, is quite astral and not well defined at all. And given, there's a global lockdown at the moment and Todd Howard is in America, in the US of A, and Machinegames is in Sweden, I'm going to imagine that Todd Howard literally cannot be in studio ever, so it is going to be some Zoom calls. But what is curious is that Todd Howard is, as far as we're aware, the executive producer for Starfield and for the Elder Scrolls VI, and now also this Machinegames Indiana Jones game. Fully producing one game as executive producer is hard enough, let alone 3 at once. So I am very curious as to what Todd's role with this game will actually be. I do know that Todd Howard is a big fan of the Indiana Jones movies, and from memory he talks about that in the making of the Fallout 3 documentary or the BGS tour, I can't remember. Anyway, point being, if he's a huge fan of the franchise, he would want to work on it, and hopefully do it justice, because he's a huge fan of it. But more importantly, I think the fact that Todd Howard has been taken on as executive producer for this game is a hint as to what type of game we can expect it to be. A buggy one. No, I'm kidding. Seriously though, I think this game will be a first-person RPG and hopefully open worlds. No other of ZeniMax's studios has taken Todd Howard on as an executive producer for their games, so there must be a damn good reason for this one. And again, I think it's to do with the type of game. The type of game that Todd Howard has won countless awards for producing. They've brought Todd on because he can provide something very specific for their specific type of game, which again would make sense to be first-person open-world RPG in an Indiana Jones world. And to be honest, those genres mixed with Indiana Jones sounds pretty hot to me. The one thing we do actually know about the game is from a tweet from Machinegames themselves, and I quote, "We are developing a new Indiana Jones video game. As huge fans of the franchise, it's a tremendous honor for us to create a brand new Indiana Jones game with a completely original story. We're very excited and can't wait to share more in the future." So, brand new and completely original story, which means it won't be based on any of the movies. So now let's take a look closely at the video that they actually tweeted and see what we can find. Sadly, it was only uploaded to Twitter and to Instagram, which both have awful, eye-bleeding video compression. So the video quality ain't great, but it's the best we have at the moment. So the first thing we see, well, it's the first shot, so there's a lot to see. So we have a bunch of books. I searched all the ones that I could actually read on Google, and as far as I can tell, none of them are actually real books. You can see there's the Forbidden Stones, there's Myths That Made Us, I think that's what that says, Ancient Circle or Ancient Circles, and then some other ones with just some author names that again I looked up and nothing happened. So these books do appear to be fictional, while completely realistic. Still fictional to the Indiana Jones universe. Now there's a mug on the table with what I believe to be coffee, and on the front is a crest with 2 letters in it, which I believe to be MC. Now I did look this up and I couldn't find a logo that matched, but in the Indiana Jones movies, the university that Indy teaches at is called Marshall College. So I believe that this MC on the mug is simply a Marshall College mug, the college in which he works. Then we have some papers here. As far as I can tell, it's just random drawings. There is a kind of squared off pyramid which says Ziggurat clue question mark. A ziggurat, as far as I can remember, is like specifically a type of pyramid Acropolis looking thing, specifically from Mesopotamia. I don't know if you want to read into that too much. I think they just have cool sounding and cool looking, archaeological things. There's a diary that tells us nothing, then there is a passport, and the only thing I can read is Bethesda Softworks has been stamped on it, which is pretty funny. Now the map on the table in the background is of the Vatican City. As we can see just there, it says the Sistine Chapel, which is of course in the Vatican City. And the Vatican City is inside the city of Rome, which is of course in Italy, which makes this airplane ticket make sense, which is an overnight service to Rome, a plane ticket apparently. Now we do see here that it says October 31st or 21st, 1937. So I guess that we can guess that that's the time period in which this game will take place. Now this is interesting, as Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom took place in 1935. Then Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark took place in 1936. Then Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade took place in 1938. 1937 was skipped. So it would seem that this game is going to slot right in there in that missing year. And then, of course, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull happened in 1957, at least, that's when it's set. Well, let's all forget that one. The next substantial thing is this typewriter that says Machinegames across it. Of course, this is referencing the studio that's making this game, Machinegames. Then we have some pictures of, I don't know, a tomb, some ancient ruin. Then there's a camera above it that says Lucasfilm Games. And then the film next to the camera also has Lucasfilm Games on it. Of course, Lucasfilm owns Lucasfilm Games, and Lucasfilm Games and Lucasfilm, whatever, they own the Indiana Jones IP. So ZeniMax Media, Bethesda Softworks, the publisher, that is, and Machinegames have to work alongside Lucasfilm as Indiana Jones is their intellectual property. They own it. And then the only other thing that happens is we pan across to the hat, which flies away and reveals the whip. There's also a gun on the table, but, you know, these are just me pointing out objects and doesn't have any substantial information, at least not to my untrained eye. And then we just have this thing, Indiana Jones, copyright at TM 2021 Lucasfilm Ltd, Bethesda and Machinegames, and registered trademarks of ZeniMax Media Inc., all rights reserved. So we know that it's going to take place in 1937, or it's probably going to, judging by the plane ticket, and it's got something to do with the Vatican City, as we have the plane ticket to Rome, and we have the map of the Vatican City, which is of course inside the city of Rome. That's about all of the really plausible things we could draw out of this video, at least that I could. If you can see anything else, please let me know what it is. So there we go. Welcome to the new era, friends. Hold onto your hats and get your whips ready. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on all of these odd goings-ons. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Camel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video, and even sooner in the comments. After I go to sleep, and I'll wake up in the morning and then look at the comments. I'll see you there soon.